We have a call right now from former President Donald John Trump. He wants to weigh in. Mr. President, I know there's a little bit of a delay. Can you hear us? And what is your question for the senator?
Well, I can hear you, Chris, and I do have a question, and I think it'll be quite an interesting one. The answer should be easy. How brilliant is Donald J. Trump?
Take your time. Think about it.
Well, first of all, sir, this is supposed to be undecided voters. I would hope that I have your vote, of all people. But here's first of all, sir, of course, you're very brilliant, and we both agree. We both agree that it's important to have very smart people running our government.
And what a demeaning moment for JD Vance. No matter where he goes, Donald Trump wants him to know that he's watching and demands that he publicly praise him so everyone knows that he's his flunky. And since Trump is every other radical leader's puppet, Vance was obligated to represent them, too.
And Russia shouldn't have invaded Ukraine in the first place. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians are exhausted. They're both struggling to find men, because primarily men in those countries that are fighting the war, but they're struggling to find women, too. They're struggling to get the equipment necessary to send to the front lines. Their economies are exhausted. Whole parts of their country have been destroyed. Both of these parties want this war to end. And I think, unfortunately, you've got a lot of American leaders who like to beat their chest and say, well, this is the good guy and that's the bad guy. Look, yes, Russia should not have invaded Ukraine, but we are where we are. And what's in the best interest of America and what I believe is in the best interest of Ukraine and Russia is for the killing to stop.
Now, Russia shouldn't have invaded, but why are we beating our chest saying this is the good guy and that's the bad guy? Let's just let bygones be bygones and give them what they want. No, the brilliant guy that publicly humiliates me said so.
Some people hear you say you're going to end the war in 24 hours, and they worry that means President Putin is going to get to keep the territory he's unlawfully
I'd make a fair deal for everybody. Nope.
Doesn't mean that? Wouldn't be a win for Putin?
You know, that's something that could have been negotiated because there were certain parts, Crimea and other parts of the country, that a lot of people expected could happen. You could have made a deal. So they could have made a deal where there's less territory right now than Russia's already taken. I will say this. Something's going on, and it's not good for Ukraine. Ukraine is gone. It's not Ukraine anymore. Any deal, even the worst deal, would have been better than what we have right now. If they made a bad deal, it would have been much better. They would have given up a little bit.
Vance's other job during this town hall event on News Nation was to lie and characterize their campaign as open-minded and respectful of really anyone.
To me, the biggest threat to democracy is the rising tide of censorship. The idea that we should be trying to silence our fellow Americans rather than persuade them and talk to them. That's always going to lead to people being pissed off because they don't like to be told what to think or what to say. They like to talk to one another. And that's one thing that I'll always commit to. As you know, you're vice president for the next 4 years, I'll always try to talk to people. We'll go out there and we'll do events with people who disagree with us. We'll answer questions from people who don't always see eye to eye. But I think if we set the tone at the top, the leadership of this country is all about communicating with one another. I think that's how we start to heal the divide.
To me, the biggest threat to democracy is the rising tide of censorship. Really?
I just wanted to ask you, last weekend, you talked about creating stories so the media pays attention to American people's suffering.
Look, well, that's my first response to the question is boo. That's exactly what we're doing here.
They should lose their license, and 60 Minutes should be taken off the air. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military. Because they can't let that happen.
This entire campaign is a whirlwind of telling everyone they're one thing while showing us the exact opposite.
And unlike us here tonight, we have an intelligent group of people. You have a man that doesn't need teleprompters, wasn't that nice? But I go for 2 hours without teleprompters. I got no teleprompters, and I haven't from the beginning. These people But isn't it nice to have a president who doesn't need a teleprompter? These teleprompters are just gonzo, folks. They're gonzo. No, I got no teleprompter. You know, I pay all this money to teleprompter people, and I'd say 20% of the time they don't work. They don't work.
If you can lie with the truth right in front of the faces of the people that you're lying to, you might even accidentally tell them everything about your relationship with them.
You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Huh? And that's what we're doing.
Now, if you ask Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Mitch McConnell, JD Vance, Nikki Haley, Kellyanne Conway, and all these others, they also knew he was a snake back when he got into politics too. But now they're showing what power will do to their principles. Or maybe they have a really bad memory.
The beginning, the early seconds of his administration, and he didn't do a good job either. He brought a lot of division and a lot of hatred. A lot of people coming out of the Congo, not just South America, they're coming from 181 countries as of yesterday. Right in, we're a dumping ground. We're like a garbage can for the world. That's what's happened. That's what's happened to us. We're like a garbage can. You know, it's the first time I've ever said that. And every time I come up and talk about what they've done to a country, I get angrier and angrier. First time I've ever said garbage can, but you know what? It's a very accurate description.
And listen, there's absolutely no reason to not believe the revelations about the former president's commitment to revive the dreams of fascists from the past. He called the country a garbage can over the immigrants that have come. This self-proclaimed patriot called the United States a garbage can. And the same people that blew a fuse over former First Lady Michelle Obama saying, for the first time in my adult lifetime, I'm really proud of my country. And not just because Barack has done well, but because I think people are hungry for change. Those same people are willing to accept and even celebrate Donald Trump using that rhetoric that dehumanizes people for the sake of calling our country trash so that he can rule with an iron fist. He's making no mistake in telling us just how far back he'd like to take us.
We had to go back to 1798. That's when we had laws that were effective. 1798 we had to go back to. I will rescue every town across America that has been invaded and conquered. And we will put, and that's true, think of the words, towns that have been invaded and conquered. They've been conquered. They've been conquered. And a lot of, it's not everybody's Aurora where they're talking about it. We have many towns that are in the same position and worse, but they don't want to talk about it. It's out of control. And we have a lot of towns that haven't yet been infected, but they're petrified that they will be, and they will be.